Thursday, December. Yeah, I'll call the meeting to order on Thursday, December 5th of the Next Generation Advisory Board. And I'll start off with public comment. First up, we have Ned Stern.
All right. Thank you for letting this old boomer through the door. So, greetings. My name is Ned Stern. I'm here to ask the NGAB, given your charge, to advise City Council concerning matters that impact younger residents, to stop South Suburban's Park and Recreation from concreting the Lee Gulch Trail between Prince Street and the Mary Carter Greenway. For some history, this is the third attempt by South Suburban to concrete significant portions of the Lee Gulch Trail. The first two were thwarted by neighbors wanting to protect the Lee Gulch Granite Fines Trail, which brings us to the current attempt. On October 7th of this year, with no public notice on the trail or their website, South Suburban began concreting what was to be 2,300 feet of the trail between Prince Street and the Mary Carter Greenway. After calls by concerned neighbors, the pour was halted with only 190 feet of concrete in place. Now South Suburban is belatedly soliciting community input via rush survey required to be completed by December 20th. Their project description laments how expensive it is to maintain the Granite Fines Trail, but doesn't reveal the concrete would cost $195,000 or 23 to 38 times the annual maintenance cost for the Granite Fines Trail. This is not the way to conduct a balanced survey. The Lee Gulch Trail is one of 5 granite fines or soft trails that course through Littleton's finest natural areas along and east of the Platte River. In fact, Lee Gulch is the trail that connects this wonderful soft trail network. The segment that South Suburban proposes to concrete is the only connector between all of the soft trails. If cemented, the trails will be separated by up to 2/3 of a mile of concrete. Runners and walkers know a soft trail protects their joints. Stay off concrete, which is 10 times harder than asphalt, and you will stay mobile. Forget driving somewhere when these trails are in easy reach. Get South Suburban to maintain and enhance these local treasures. We should be rewilding the Lee Gulch corridor, one of Littleton's superb natural areas, not paving over paradise. Please join us to stop South Suburban's plan to concrete the Lee Gulch Trail between Prince Street and the Mary Carter Greenway. Work with South Suburban to build a comprehensive plan for preserving the Lee Gulch natural area and its soft trail. Ensure that South Suburban includes the city and the public in planning projects that impact our natural areas. And please include this issue on the agenda for your next meeting. Thank you very much.
And would you like to speak, Pam?
Yeah, please. Hi, Next Gen. My name is Pam Chadbourne. I live a block and a half from here, and I agree with Ned 100%, and thank him for all the work he did on this. I wanted to mention a couple of things. Last month's agenda meeting was canceled, but it included a City of Littleton marketing plan information or something like that. I'm going to say a few things. The clerk isn't posting document packets for the public for boards. The clerk should. I'd like you folks to ask council to ask the clerk to do that. And one of the reasons is I would understand better what that is. But if I understand correctly, you'd learn about a marketing plan or something like that. My opinion as a resident of Littleton is that Next Gen Advisory Board can contribute best if you focus on governance and the roles and powers and responsibilities of governance, and not on the marketing plan. And I've mentioned before, there's a lot of business related bodies where people who want to do that can go. Historic Downtown Littleton Merchants, First Wednesdays. Littleton Downtown Development Authority is building a website for downtown that is really good. Go see that. Littleton Business Chamber has offices in Shift, and that's supposed to be the whole city. And there's the South Metro Chamber of Commerce, and there's other business related activities. I want Next Gen to concentrate on governance and good governance. So I have an idea for an adulting seminar, which is civics. and or Littleton government, and maybe a specific about city design and how zoning code should achieve it. Part of the reason is of NextGen to exist is to prepare younger people for future service in other city boards and commissions. I haven't observed that strongly happening over 4 years or so of watching, 5, 6 for NextGen. And I want to see that happen. I think that's a good purpose for NextGen. Unfortunately, our governance is really bad right now. We have stovepipe departments, isolated projects. We are not integrated among each other. I'm going to mention Project Downtown, separate from Quad Road, separate from Safer Streets. These all cost a ton. And we also need affordable housing. We should be subsidizing housing. We have problems and we need you folks to help solve that. The City of Littleton marketing plan is going to be taken care of by other folks. And finally, I wanted to mention govern is, the word came from to steer, as in a boat, or in French, rudder or helm. It, in devices, is a speed limiter and controller. It looks at all the things happening, people living, people doing commerce, carrying out activities, all this infrastructure that we need to do these things. And governance helps make that happen. It is a wonderful thing. It needs to be done. We often don't do it well here in America. So I want to see NextGen enter that enterprise and support that. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Pam. I'm gonna move on to the next topic of discussion topics. I'll take a second to pause and get input from staff and our council liaison of, I would love to hear what you guys have to say, but I also, if I'm the only one here, don't want to make you guys spend your entire evening here, I guess just with me and the city staff. So it's like, I guess I'm saying that to be, if you would like to give an abridged or shortened version, that is also fine of your presentations, because I don't want to keep you here if most of our board is not here. As we move into our topics, and the first one is the Tri-Cities Homelessness Initiative. Tri-Cities Homelessness Initiative.
Oh, hello, my name is Jessica Cox. I am the Tri-Cities Homeless Service Coordinator. My position is housed within Arapahoe County. However, I work for the 3 cities, Littleton, Englewood, and Sheridan.
Littleton's best though, right? That's your top
No
priority.
comment. Yeah, well, they're all wonderful.
Not that this is being recorded, but
So I'm just gonna kind of go through, well, first give a brief history. So the action plan was adapted in 2019 to help address homelessness in the 3 cities. And it was developed by an outside contractor who kind of did some needs assessments and a really thorough deep dive into what homelessness looked like in the 3 cities. So this action plan outlines what the contractor had found and ways in which we can help support our unhoused community. So at this current iteration of the action plan is slated to end December 31st. However, there will be a new action plan in the new year that I'll be working on. And many of the items from this action plan will be carried through to the new action plan. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Will it show up here if I, okay. Okay. I put it in presentation mode, but it doesn't look like it's caught up.
presentation mode usually doesn't work the way it does over Zoom.
Yeah, it doesn't. So I'll just kind of go through these slides and speak through these points, but if there's anything that you can't see or would like some more clarification on, please feel free to ask. So prior to me coming into this role in June, my predecessor had done a lot of the work, the groundwork and boots on the ground at setting the foundation for the action plan and getting all of the items that are in the action plan addressed. So I'm gonna go through year one. It's not reflecting just yet, but let's see. Okay. I'll keep it out of presentation mode so we can go through the slides here. So in year one, which was 2022, there's 4 different components to the action plan. So one is building a strong foundation that has specific action items, developing a single adult system, developing workforce development programs, and then developing a family system. So I'll go through all of the achievements in year one under each component and category in the action plan. So one of the first was formalizing a regional leadership body. This was completed in 2022, and this was sponsored through the Tri-Cities Homelessness Policy Group. Creating the regional coordinator position, which is the role that I'm in. Increasing participation in HMIS, and that was done through Change the Trend. And just for some context, HMIS is our homeless management information system. So it is our COC, which is MDHI, our continuum of care leads that. And it's where any information that agencies have opted in will input any data regarding individuals who are experiencing homelessness and the services that they're being provided. So in 2022, they had increased in participation. So I'm not sure what the numbers look like beforehand, but now what it looks like is we have 5 agencies within the Tri-Cities area that utilize HMIS. And I want to stress the importance of HMIS because it's really how we track any data. And data is how we can increase funding and really speak to the need in the area.
Question, does that HMIS like extend beyond the Tri-Cities? Cause I know I've heard a lot of people move between Denver and Littleton via our light rail and that like moves through the Tri-Cities and beyond. Does it extend into any of our further neighbors at all?
Yeah, so HMIS is throughout the whole state of Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah. But for the Denver metro area, MDHI is who oversees our HMIS system. But yeah, Denver, it really tracks any kind of agency and that uses the system in the Denver and Colorado.
Okay.
Another action item that was completed was increasing referrals to One Home System, and One Home System is part of HMIS. So that really, the One Home System collects data and kind of fast tracks individuals who are really high need and have chronic and persistent homelessness, get housing in place or emergency shelter, but something in place so that we can lessen that likelihood of them entering back into homelessness. Another is partner with Built for Zero. Built for Zero is an initiative that is also through MDHI in partnership with CSH. And Built for Zero really focuses on targeting one demographic and trying to get that demographics homelessness number count down to as close to 0 as possible. So in the Denver metro area, we focus on veterans. And the whole theory is that if we focus on one demographic and get that down to 0, we can then move on to a new demographic that we can also hopefully get down to 0. Built for Zero has been really successful nationwide, but I think especially in the Denver metro area. So I think in Tri-Cities right now, our veteran homelessness list is at 3 individuals in the area. So it really focuses on case conferencing. So every month, providers that are engaged in Built for Zero will meet, do case conferencing, and make sure there's wraparound services and that they're fast track to housing. And I know that other areas in Arapahoe County have actually got to functional 0. And functional zero is a threshold that MDHI kind of designates. And it's when they've gotten, I want to say it's less than 4 individuals on their by name list that guides Built for Zero for a certain amount of time. So, and that's another component of the Built for Zero work is the by name list. So every single veteran that has entered into HMIS, our homeless management system, they are tracked by name. And as I mentioned, there's wraparound case conferencing monthly just to make sure that they're being tracked and they're getting all the services that they need. And then developing a system of tracking and reporting on plan implementation. And that is part of my role. So every month I report on certain metrics in Tri-Cities. And a lot of that is around HMIS. And there's a dashboard report that you can find on the Tri-Cities website. And that is monthly. So you can every month kind of track what the progress looks like, what the numbers look like. And that was part of the strong foundation. And then there is a Tri-Cities webpage that you can also visit, and it outlines all of the work and all of the resources and all of the dashboards. For developing a single adult system, we designated a lead service provider. And our lead service provider for the single adult system is Bridge House Ready to Work. And that is slated to open in Englewood in March of 2025. So they will kind of be the lead provider in services for single adults. And then supporting local meal programs, and that was done through Graceful, Cafe 180, and ICFS. For developing workforce development programs, we launched Cross Purpose, which is in partnership with Wellspring Church and the city of Englewood, and that is located at Englewood, and it is a trade school where individuals can go and acquire the skills that they may want or need in order to acquire a job and exit homelessness. For developing a family system, we engage monthly with our local school districts. So our McKinney-Vento liaisons, we meet with every month, and we help support the work that they are doing in the schools. And then promote new resources for homelessness prevention. And that is again, something that we do with our McKinney-Vento liaisons. And the McKinney-Vento liaisons are liaisons that are in each school district to help with families who have been identified as experiencing housing instability. Action items from year 1 that are still in progress are increasing local government staff capacity, creating a welcome home community engagement program, supporting Ready to Work partnership, and designating a lead service provider. And I'll kind of go through the progress on some of these items in the next slide.
Question for you, when you say
Sure.
increase local government, like staffing, is that like having people within the city of Littleton work specifically for or with the Tri-Cities homelessness, or what exactly is that?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a blend of all of the municipalities and also the county working together to address homelessness in the area. So for in progress items that we have some updates on for creating a welcome home community engagement program, we have a landlord initiative that we're working on now, and it is designed to create a housing stability cohort. So the first part of this cohort was doing a training through Keyheart, and Keyheart training has been super successful in other areas, especially Aurora, in making sure that agencies have good, that they can outreach to landlords and gain more landlord interest in housing individuals who have vouchers. But then also making sure that these individuals have case management along with it so that these are sustainable long-term housing options where they can work with the landlord and the tenant. So this training was really intended to equip some of our case managers and housing navigators with those skills to make sure that there's sustainability. And that we had the training, it was 10:28 and 10:30, and partners who are involved in the housing stability cohort is All Health Paths. They have a team of case managers who work in mobile outreach to individuals in the neighborhood who have been identified as experiencing homelessness, South Metro Housing, Family Tree, and then we also had our Arapahoe County Housing Navigators. And for designating a lead service provider for family systems, this is one of those items that we're putting on hold and bringing into the new action plan. So one of the focuses for the new action plan is really doing some of that ongoing work with the family systems. So items from year 2 in 2023 that were completed under building a strong foundation, streamlining volunteering, giving opportunities. And this was done through the Tri-Cities Homelessness Policy Group. So really getting on the Tri-Cities website information about ways in which community members who are interested can help support. And then creating a lived experience advisory board. And that was developed, and we plan to re-engage with our lived experience board in the new action plan. This is another one of the items that we plan to bring to the new action plan. Under a single adult system, we had accomplished launching a coordinated outreach team, and this is All Health Path. So they are a team of, I want to say, 4 case managers who do street outreach and case management for individuals in the area who are experiencing homelessness. For items that are in progress, we we are working towards creating this central navigation system, which again would be Bridge House Ready to Work, and that's slated to open in March of 2025. Piloting a safe parking initiative, promoting shared housing, and strengthening outreach to landlords. For developing workforce development programs, engaging with AD work. And for the family system, piloting a peer support specialist program to outreach to families. And lastly, explore expanding housing choice vouchers to families. And I will go in more detail in the in-progress updates.
Those housing vouchers normally come from the county, correct?
Those come from the Housing Authority.
Okay.
Yeah. So for Littleton, South Metro Housing administers the housing choice vouchers.
Okay.
That's essentially Section 8.
It is. So the housing choice vouchers are portable. So it's, when you think about housing, that's really what you want. You want a housing choice voucher because you can take it anywhere and it stays with you. So I think a lot of the project-based Section 8 is kind of tied to the unit
Okay.
that it's in. But yeah, housing choice vouchers are really, they run off a lottery system. So every year or several times a year, the housing authorities will draw names. They have a certain day of the year that they can enter into the lottery. And then once their name is pulled, they start the process to get the housing choice voucher and tenant connected to housing.
Is there like a limit, or like once you have the voucher, do you have it indefinitely until your circumstances improve?
Yeah, housing,
Okay.
you can have that forever.
Okay.
And it can also be transferred to a family member
Oh.
as well. So that, yeah, the housing choice voucher really is the preferred
Yeah.
housing method. The only drawback to it is that you also do have a certain amount of time you have to use this voucher, and that's designated by HUD. And if you don't use that voucher or find a landlord who is willing to accept this voucher within that time frame, you lose the voucher. So the landlord engagement is a really important part to making sure that these housing choice vouchers are utilized. Some of the items from year 2 that we are still currently working on are piloting a safe parking initiative. So right now I meet bi-weekly with city representatives and our Colorado Safe Parking Initiative representatives to identify potential sites. And right now we do have 3 sites that we are hopefully working with to have a pilot program in place. And that is, again, something that we would hopefully bring into the new action plan as well. Strengthening landlord outreach. Again, that's kind of tied back to that landlord engagement initiative work that was launched with the Key Heart training and the housing stability cohort. So all of the agencies that were at the training are now part of the housing stability cohort. And we'll meet monthly, and there also will be an incentive for individuals that they get housing for, and it'll be a welcome home basket with items that someone may need when they're first moving into a home, and also a gift card in the amount of $200 to $300 that they can use towards items that they would need moving into a home.
A question I have that you might know the answer to, for the safe parking initiative, I know at least that it's, because the representative for that, for Colorado Safe Parking, has actually come speak to us last year. Is there any or I guess ask that would be required of the county? Because I know at least the city, there would have to be some changes in code to allow people to sleep in their vehicles. Do you know if Arapahoe County would have to do anything for that initiative at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. And as far as the county, not necessarily.
Okay.
However, for some of the safe parking lots, the county has been able to administer funding for it.
Oh, okay.
So that's one option. Many were ARPA funds, which are
Yeah,
running out,
yeah.
so we don't know what, and if the county would have that capacity moving forward. But as far as any like barriers with zoning or anything of that nature, there's no concerns on the county's end.
Okay, it'll all be up to the city.
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know.
So for HC, the housing choice voucher expansion to families, we do have some plans in place with HUD and some representatives for HUD for the new year. And it would be hosting a landlord education event that HUD will support. And that would be with Realtors Association, and really to just educate realtors and landlords in the area on some of the really great things that are connected with renting to HCV participants. And that would also kind of tie into the landlord engagement. So making sure that we have landlords that are ready and willing and want to rent to our housing choice voucher participants.
Question with the housing choice vouchers, is that essentially like, here's a voucher for X amount of money that you can go and spend, or is it? Okay.
Yeah.
And then like a follow-up to that, is there a precedent for any municipalities for using that as like a requirement of like 5% of your or 10% of your apartments have to be HCV for, because I know we do that for affordable housing. Do you know if any municipalities in the state do that for requiring HCV of some capacity, or not at all?
That's a good question that I don't have a answer to.
Yeah,
From my experience, the housing authorities really are the ones that administer it and kind of have the say in the housing choice vouchers. That isn't necessarily connected to the city.
okay.
But I could be missing something and things could have changed, so.
No, I was just more curious if like the city could require that, like, let's say, because I know that like the current ULUC for the city of Littleton requires 5% of all new builds of like multifamily or like apartments to be affordable housing. If any municipalities have enforced something like that for the HCV, like of like for, instead of like, you could say like in replacement of affordable housing, you have to have 5% HCV or up to, or something like that. I was wondering if anything like that exists at all.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I can get back to you on an answer for that.
Okay.
But that issue resides on It's only an issue of you can't find places that'll take HCV.
Yeah.
You said that you work on making sure the landlord, but it sounds like you're successful at finding landlords that'll take HCV.
There are a good amount, and I think as of recently, they're doing a lot, especially HUD, they have a lot of initiatives that support, like educating and getting, more landlords engaged. But, and I can't speak to any like housing authorities in our Tri-Cities area, but I know in general, what HUD has seen is that, they haven't been utilized. So,
But is it, they're not utilized because the apartment won't take them or?
Yeah.
Okay.
because it's such a short turnaround from when an individual gets a voucher to when they have to have it rented. And if they can't find the landlord that's willing to rent, then that housing choice voucher just goes back into the system. They draw another name and it's kind of just like this ongoing cycle. So utilization for HCB has gone down in general for, in HUD's perspective. So yeah, they do have a lot of initiatives that they're putting forth to try to make sure that there are programs in place so that the utilization rates can go back up. So. And for in-progress updates, one of the last items is piloting a peer support group. And that is something that I am currently working on. And in conversation with Colorado Mental Wellness Center to discuss what having that peer support group, specifically in like the school systems or targeting family systems would look like. And then lastly, for year 3, the items that have been completed are we convened local healthcare providers to discuss street medicine outreach. And for in progress, I am currently working on the RFP process for PSH feasibility assessment. And that's a permanent supportive housing feasibility assessment. I'll go into
Question for, could you go back one?
Yeah.
For like, is there a product sponsor for the local healthcare providers? Oh, it's discuss, sorry, I didn't really read that or see the discuss part. I wasn't sure if it had actually been implemented yet as like a
Yeah.
program.
Well, so that one, it actually is it's an in-kind program. So I'll go into a little bit more detail of what the convening actually looked like and what it looked like in terms of our street medicine outreach. So what I found when I first came in is that Stride already had a street medicine outreach team that actually was looking to come out to the Tri-Cities area and administer services in the Tri-Cities area. So rather than reinventing the wheel, I thought, let's kind of get our healthcare providers and some of our local partners and agencies together so that they're aware of Stride and that they know what Stride can do. And that was hosted on the 11th of September. And we had partners from Doctors Care, the Englewood Police Resource Case Manager, Advent Health, All Health Path, Arapahoe County Public Health, and of course Stride. And Stride was really able to kind of reach these partners that they maybe didn't have those connections with prior. And it's still, in development, but Stride has really kind of gained traction in the Tri-Cities area now. And they have been able to do outreach, street medical outreach in our area. And we're still working with Stride to figure out where are the best pockets, what's the best times. It's kind of a learning process in any area, what street medicine outreach looks like. So that's one thing that we are working on with Stride. And then the program manager for Stride and myself will be presenting to the case management team at Swedish, so that Swedish is aware of their services and that, and I think one of the really great things with Stride is what they can do is they can meet individuals who are discharging from the hospital who may be identified as experiencing homelessness or while they were in the hospital, lost their housing. Stride can come in, meet the resident or the individual at the hospital and do continued care. So find out where they're gonna be to make sure they have medicine, if they have a discharge plan that has some clear things outlined, Stride can help support that so that the individual doesn't have to go back to the hospital. Stride can meet them where they're at. So that will be within the next 2 months. And then for sponsoring the permanent supportive housing feasibility assessment, I completed the work plan for the permanent supportive housing feasibility assessment. So that moved from planned to in progress. And so I've been meeting with consultants and PSH providers in other areas that have kind of guided my scope of work. That scope of work will go through the county to start the RFP process. And we hope to have it's usually about a 3-month process for the county. So we're hoping to have a consultant under contract in April. And then that will kind of start and guide our work for permanent supportive housing and bringing it to the area. So that lands us at the action plan being at 60% completed, 40% in progress. And many of those items that are in progress will hopefully carry over into the new action plan. So that's all I've got.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When is I know you said is it coming out in the new year, or is the action plan for, I guess, next year still in the works?
So this action plan will end December 31st, and then January 1st is when the new action plan would be in place, and it'll be I want to say a 2-year plan.
Okay.
So
And will it be like publicly available the first, or is it like, I imagine y'all are still working on it, or I don't know what your timeline is.
yeah. So the original action plan is available on the Tri-Cities website to kind of read through and that outlines all of the action items. And my guess would be the new one would also be something that would be made public as well.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, for coming to talk. I really appreciate all the information.
Yeah, of course, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Does anyone have any other comments? Because I know I've been asking a lot of questions and stuff.
I think this is my second time.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're a pro.
No. I learned things.
Not, then I think we can move on to our next topic of discussion, root and renew.
Thank you. My name is Andrea Vaughn. I am a staff planner in community development and have the fortunate luck of shepherding Root and Renew through. So Root and Renew is our parks and open space vision plan. We are kind of getting to those final stages. See if I might have some better luck with presentation mode. Fingers crossed. So thank you all for inviting me here today. I believe that this is the first time that NextGen is kind of seeing Root and Renew. We're still in development, but like I said, we're kind of reaching those final stages of this plan. So tonight I'll give you all just a brief project overview. We did have 2 engagement phases, so I'll provide the summary for both. But really tonight we'll kind of dig into the vision plan, what our recommendations are. We have also recently been in discussion with ESB, and we did present at City Council study session last month. So I'll provide a brief summary of those and then also go into what these final steps for the plan look like, as well as what comes next. So Root and Renew is really intended to be a community-supported vision plan. This process has been a 100% community-driven plan, really only driven by community input. The last master plan was completed in 2016, so we are a little ahead of what the kind of more natural life cycle of a plan would be, but things have changed since 2016. And the plan is a little outdated already. We like to joke a lot. There's parkour has been identified as a trend in the 2016 plan and that we need facilities for parkour. And I just don't think that that is true today. But really this plan is trying to ensure that not only are we staying on top of park trends, but that we are meeting the needs for our park users, the citywide. This project has been going on since the fall of 2023, when really kind of the initial existing conditions were scoped out. I do also want to kind of preface this is that we've heard a lot of chatter about kind of what happens next. So step one is this vision. Root and Renew is the adoption of Root and Renew is the end of step one, but it's not the end of the work. We do have the detailed recommendations that come next. But we did, so we started off with an engagement in the winter and have spent all of summer drafting the plan. We're here, we've finished up the second phase of engagement, and again, we're just nearing the end line with the draft plan. Littleton also has a very special relationship with its parks because we don't really manage most of our parks. We own most of the parkland. And we work in partnership with South Suburban Parks and Rec to help us manage that. That relationship began in 1964, and South Suburban is honestly pretty busy. They help service a number of other parks for a number of other communities around. And so we want to develop this plan as something that is really unique for Littleton and engage our partners through this to see that vision through. Again, this plan has been developed with 100% community input, and the intent of it is we don't have any, like site-specific interventions that we are recommending at this point that will happen in future phases. But it is to help determine where our resources should be going. And we will be engaging with South Suburban next, I believe right now it's slated for next summer, to update that agreement. So we want to be able to use Root and Renew as a tool that we can always fall back on and say, this is what we've heard from the community and this is what we need to be providing. And we honestly, we had a lot of fun doing this engagement. We did quite a robust engagement through winter and spring of this year. Started off with an online meeting that honestly did not have the fanfare that we were hoping for. It was not well attended, but in spite of that, we're really proud of what we were able to do. We were able to engage with 640 residents, 458 of those through the survey that was open for 4 months. We held a series of pop-ups. We did them at Rec Center, all the way through to Promise Park. And these events were really great. We were able to really engage with residents across the spectrum, not even just residents, but park users. And this is really where we were able to hear from the youth population here. We did gumball voting, where people were able to vote for what they were most excited to see in parks. And from that, some of the most popular were water play, natural areas of exploration, and trails. Some of those were kind of influenced by where we were. Buck Center heard a lot about water play. In Carter Greenway, we heard a lot about trails. But these natural areas of exploration is something that tonight we'll discuss, and it was a common thread that really carried through. And we have a resident population that is really there's a big appetite for people to be able to interact with nature. And so we heard that again and again through this process. We also held a small group meeting. Those folks were able to give us their information through the survey. We reached out to them to set up that date. And we had 9 people attend. And this is really where we were able to dig into some of the feedback that we were hearing at that time through the engagement that was ongoing. We heard quite a bit about pet and cycle connections to the parks. And while that's not the best place for this plan, it carries through some of the other plans and studies that we've done. So we have our Safer Streets Littleton, as well as the Littleton linkages, study. And so we're seeing these kind of trends carry through, not just with our residents, but we're hoping to also pull that in through our plans. And, you know, we heard a lot of desire for resiliency here, really more pollinator gardens. And again, those opportunities for people to interact with nature, which might be a little more difficult in an infill city that we are now, but, you know, it's challenged us to think a little bit more creatively about this as well. Through this, really some of the key themes that we've heard is that desire for trails, better maintenance in some areas such as our playgrounds and courts, but also as well as increasing those amenities. And again, access to natural areas. We've also had a strong support for certain trends like disc golf and pickleball. So we'll be keeping an eye on that to see kind of how that trend either continues or starts to decline. Oh, and then one thing I think that we heard a lot that is really interesting and really important for us to make sure that we are constantly bringing up in these discussions is that we've heard that there is a huge desire for our community to have more shade, whether it's trees or shade structures over the playgrounds, on our trails. Our park users feel pretty exposed, and I think particularly as we will be experiencing hotter summers, our parks are often a place of refuge. So really trying to provide that more comfort as well as natural experience. In the surveys, you know, we've heard that while we have some room for improvement, our parks are pretty great. We have a lot of happy people, and so while this work is really good or was so much fun to do, it's also when we're trying to pull together a plan, it makes it a little bit harder when everyone's really happy. You know, so they're quality problems to have. But we also did hear that, you know, we're hearing again that there is this lack of safe connections to our parks. And again, we have, not only do we have people that feel that that our parks are well, that they love the access to the parks, but that they're also utilizing the parks pretty frequently. You know, most users in the park system are using it at least a few times a week, if not daily. So through this work, you know, we heard some of what these priorities are. Resiliency in engagement phase 1 was huge. New amenities came through a little bit, and some of it, you know, that accessibility and connections that we've been talking about, but also improved maintenance. So again, people are very happy with their access to parks, and we heard about this more in engagement phase 2, I think, is that there's a lack of maintenance in our parks, as well as access to maybe some basic amenities such as water and sanitary sewer that our park users just aren't getting.
And is there like I guess the question I have is like, I know South Suburban does most of our maintenance. Is there a discrepancy between the parks that we actually do our own maintenance on and the South Suburban park? Is the quality that Littleton staff doing better or the same, or is it an issue with South Suburban, I guess, am I asking?
I would say that's likely system-wide.
Okay.
Our resources for maintaining our own parks are lower than South Suburban's, but South Suburban is also working with a system, I think, that is pretty, it is a robust system for them, and they're servicing many communities. And so I think we are operating sometimes on maybe a budget that's a bit stretched. And I'll say that it is an editorialization from myself, but that, you know, that's an experience system-wide that we do have this need for improved maintenance. And out of that survey, you know, we heard that for investment, our trails, playgrounds, courts, and natural areas should be our highest priorities for investment in the future. And so now, you know, through engagement phase 1, we were really able to start to pull together this plan. This here is just a brief outline of what this plan looks like. But in our themes and goals, it's what we'll be discussing tonight. This plan identified 4 themes and goals: parks and open space, activities and trends, resiliency and nature, and community and culture. And those were all pulled through from the engagement results that we just went through. This plan was really focused, tried to really keep that focus on equity as well. So when we're talking about where we are placing our resources, it's kind of in those areas that are in highest needs, that might be served to a lower level of service in certain areas. Our 4 themes again. And we'll go through these one by one, but not on this slide. So the first recommendation for our parks and open space is to align our our park classification and definitions with South Suburban's. South Suburban is again really our operator. And as of right now, we're just speaking 2 different languages. So our first recommendation is to align that. The second is to improve our parks and create gateways that create a safe sense of arrival. This kind of connects back to what we're hearing about this lack of safe connection. So we want people to know when they get to a park and that it is somewhere special. And again, hoping to kind of create a more welcoming environment. And here we do have, we did do in our existing conditions, kind of an analysis on how our parks are, and the plan was divided up by council districts, just kind of as a way of easily being able to create some geography in the city to differentiate our areas, since we don't really have sub areas as, larger cities might. And so really rated the access to certain amenities as great, good, needs work. And from this, we found, our recommendations are that we should have more playgrounds in districts 1, 3, and 4, more basketball courts added to District 3, skate parks in 2, 3, and 4, dog parks also in 2, 3, and 4, tennis courts in District 3, and then those water and sanitary amenities provided citywide. Our 4th recommendation is to, again, really improve the maintenance that we have in our parks. My favorite part of the second engagement that we did in the fall was I talked with a girl that was probably about 11 or 12 years old, and she told me that she loves our parks, but like when things break, it would be nice if they were fixed. And so, we're hearing it from older residents as well as our younger. So there is, I think, an obvious need for a more responsive maintenance, that when people are reporting that maybe the play structures are experiencing some damage, that we are really trying to get in there to fix them more quickly so that it makes for a better park experience.
We have like a standard for our maintenance or like different repairs, or is it kind of just like on an ad hoc basis of like, we fix this as it comes up, or is there any, I guess, preventative work being done?
I'm not as educated on that portion. Our public works department really focuses on the operation. I think we have an operations and maintenance team. So I'm not sure how these conversations are happening. I do know that there is a kind of a disconnect between South Suburban and the city. Our agreement it's old and it's not very robust. So where these, what these expectations are and where responsibilities lie are not really clearly laid out. And so I think we have just this disconnect through this agreement. And so we are, when that agreement is updated, we're hoping to be able to really clarify what these responsibilities are and who they lay with.
Okay, I guess along with that, a lot of the things we talked about with like trails or like expanding parks and access to like basketball courts and stuff, but all that have to be in conjunction with South Suburban to make all of that like new construction, so to speak, happen.
It wouldn't have to be, but we would, I think we're very lucky to have our relationship with South Suburban. It's not perfect, and I know that there are certainly some qualms with it. But I do think that having an operator that's able to do this, it helps a lot. And so, you know, for those gaps that South Suburban isn't able to fix, this plan is also hoping to lean back on some partnerships to be able to do that. But in terms of the installation of a lot of these, I think the ultimate vision is that whoever is operating the park will be doing the installation and maintenance for this.
That makes sense.
And then our fifth one is to really enhance the cleanliness of parks. We heard quite a bit about really like people not picking up after their dogs, as well as, you know, we get a lot of Canada geese here. And they're a little messy, but in it does detract from the experience of park users. So really prioritizing that cleanliness system-wide, but this is from our survey, really what we heard a lot about. As well as identifying opportunities for acquisition. So we do have a lack of parks in District 4, prioritizing potential acquisition there. Open space in District 2 or otherwise creating more naturalized areas. We don't really have any open space in District 2. Again, those are areas that are much more naturalized and not really part of the urban fabric or environment. Prioritizing trails in District 2 as well. You can see here, our trails kind of skirt the edge of District 2. So trying to find those linkages for the center.
Question for, I know you had shown like the parks versus green space map. Do you know if any of the new developments on like, I guess the west side of Santa Fe in District 2 are gonna have parks along with those like buildings going up at all?
I believe there is some park space that is going in. There is an open space requirement for all developments. But they're not necessarily public parks. They will not be, they'll be owned and operated by the developer.
Okay.
They will not be a part of the city of Littleton's parks.
Yeah.
And then we have our activities and trends. So again, heard a lot about disc golf and pickleball through this. We don't want to call these out specifically in our recommendations because again, we know that these are emerging trends. But like parkour, maybe they just kind of fall to the wayside and we don't want to really be expending energy and money on things that might not last. But there's a strong desire, so these are likely here to stay. So being able to find those opportunities for disc golf and pickleball within the city of Littleton. I know South Suburban's just opened up their own disc golf or pickleball indoor centers, kind of bookending the city, but we don't have anything within our bounds.
Yes, that's what I noticed of like, Inglewood has a massive park right just north of District 2.
Cornerstone.
Yeah, Cornerstone.
And then again, just kind of consistently reevaluating these trends to make sure that, you know, have we missed anything or have we really overshot on this one? In the engagement, we also heard a lot about access to water through water recreation as well as some splash pads. So we're recommending that we do improve access to you know, those more passive and active water recreation opportunities, specifically splash pads in District 2. Resiliency in nature was also one of our bigger themes to come through in our first phase of engagement. The first recommendation is to prioritize our tree canopy within District 2. You know, we know from our urban heat mapping exercise that District 2 does experience urban heat more disparate at a larger level than the rest of the city, as well as ensuring that we have a healthy, diverse population of our trees. Again, enhancing shade around play areas and within parks. And these recommendations here are really encouraging us to rethink what we are planting and where we're planting. So assessing our parks for turf conversion away from high water use, while being intentional about maintaining turf grass for high use active areas.
Sorry.
Seeing where our planting areas can be transitioned to pollinator gardens and low water use plants. And it provided an educational garden as a pilot project in high trafficked and easily accessible areas. And our final theme is community and culture. The first is to establish partnerships with community organizations to encourage volunteer programs. We did hear a bit about this in our engagement where people are looking for an opportunity to be really in the park system. Engage with residents with park improvements that are culturally responsive, including public art installations and language inclusive signage and wayfinding. Provide multi-generational activities within parks and open spaces. This recommendation here has really come through both engagement phases pretty strongly. We've heard from older folks that, you know, they would like to have better opportunities to engage with their grandkids at the playgrounds, but we've also heard from older kids, probably like middle school up to early high school age, that our parks just currently aren't designed for them. They're designed for smaller kids, and so we get these kind of more low risk activities for older kids, and they're just not being engaged in our parks in a meaningful way. As well as provide activation opportunities through community events and educational activities.
So one of the more interesting things that we did when I was on the school board is that at middle school, we installed that rope tower. And it was amazing to watch all the middle schoolers just go play. They were so excited to have a place to play. And that was a real effective tool to get those kids out and about.
Yeah, I had heard from that. One of our small group participants kind of talked about the opening of that and how great it was to see. And it even encouraged like the adults to get
Oh
involved
yeah,
too.
absolutely, absolutely.
So those are some of the activities that are just really lacking in our park system that we know that there's an appetite in our community for. Fifth recommendation is to enhance the maintenance of existing community gardens and consider new gardens in districts 1 and 3. So after putting this all together, we wanted to go out to the community to just say, this is what we heard. Did we get it right? We had a survey that was open for a month, and that had about 77 respondents. But we did pop up at Craft Fair, Harvest Festival, and Stride, Littleton Stride, and we reached almost 260 people through that. So not as robust as our previous, but I think for what we did, it was actually really great. And we really heard, again, I think here, that strong desire to see more playgrounds and basketball courts, dog parks, that support for disc golf and pickleball still coming through really strong, but we also heard from others this time that really voiced the support for bike parks, more outdoor workout equipment, and multi-use trails. So we also heard this a little bit in phase 1 as well, but I think the support for this was stronger in phase 2, where people are looking for opportunities to recreate on trails, either as pedestrians or cyclists, but it's hard to have both on a single trail. And so really trying to find those opportunities for that separation. Continued support for more shade, particularly in our parks, as well as that conversion of high water use grass to more low water use native plants. And then for community and culture, really heard a lot for more desire for community events in our parks. Again, those multi-generational activities, as well as more volunteer opportunities. And you all are the third to hear this presentation over the last month. We did present this to the Environmental Stewardship Board on November 6th. Overall, it was very supportive and provided recommendations that we include opportunities for species monitoring, likely with local partnerships, park design for neurodivergent park users, as well as looking for those opportunities to start to buffer our parks from urban environments where it's feasible. We presented at City Council. Mine right card, tell me if I got this wrong, but we were overall.
You were there, I guarantee you.
Overall, we did hear a lot of support for the plan, but we did receive some additional feedback regarding our park analysis, kind of looking at, I think, how we are presenting parks versus open space, as well as really kind of looking at, we know that Littleton parks aren't the only ways that people are recreating in or around the city. So our parks, this plan is really, our parks are what are within our purview and kind of where we have influence. But we do know that, Littleton schools will keep their gates open after hours, and that's an opportunity for people, as well as we have regional parks. You had brought up Cornerstone.
Yeah.
We heard a lot at our, about Cornerstone through this, at some engagement opportunities, because there's not a line that
There's not a
says
clear
you're out of
distinction.
Littleton and into Englewood. And so kind of looking for those opportunities to probably, better show what parks, how people are really using the park system as like a totality, and then really focusing in on our parks.
I think that's
Yeah, that's what Kyle said.
We also have a project management team that is very cross-discipline. We have public works involved from almost every department there to kind of review the plan as well as this feedback that we heard. And we are getting ready to wrap this up, but we will have one more project management meeting in February, followed by a final draft. And that final draft will be presented to City Council in March for adoption. And then we'll move into those discussions with South Suburban, sharing this product with South Suburban, and then in the summer, looking to start those negotiations for the operation and maintenance agreement.
And is that just to wrap up the vision plan, and then from there it'll move into like more specific recommendations and things, right?
Yeah, so we'll want to get through the operations and maintenance agreement, and then I think start to look at, the park planning process for each of our parks.
That makes sense. And one question I have out of curiosity, I know you brought it up a couple times, is that like disc golf and pickleball are a trend? Like, for how long would they need to be a trend before the city's like, okay, this is worth investing in? Like basketball courts are an example, like those have been around for forever.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't have a good answer for how we kind of are able to see the longevity of trends. I think disc golf is one of those ones that, anecdotally in my own experience, I've seen kind of like peak and decline and peak and decline. But it's certainly, it's been a pretty strong mainstay since the pandemic, and same with pickleball. Pickleball gets a little tricky because people really like it, and then it becomes a little politically contentious once you actually install it. It's a bit louder than tennis is. And so we've seen our neighbors since November have both had to develop strict regulations around the development of pickleball in order to reduce the noise impact.
Interesting, I did not think of that.
It's a funny thing. It's, we know people like it, there's a love-hate relationship, I think, in communities with pickleball. But that is all I've got for you. If you have any questions, I'm project managing this, but our assistant city manager, Kathleen Osher, has been really my guide through this as well. And so she's done quite a bit of work to help get this through us.
So, I do not have any more questions. This is the second time I've seen you present this.
Were you at the study session?
Yeah, I was at the study session. That's where I was like, a lot of the comments that different people made, I was like, I don't need to repeat them. But yeah, thank you so much for coming and presenting and sharing this with us.
Thank you. And if there's anything you feel like we, have kind of missed out on, we're certainly not done yet. And so any feedback for any potential blind spots in this are always appreciated.
Okay, I can definitely, I was like, I'm hopefully moving to District 2 soon, so I'll get to see what the real feedback in that area is. So,
Where are you moving?
north, like probably like 3 blocks south of Cornerstone Park.
Oh, okay.
So,
I look forward to getting your feedback on living in that neighborhood.
yeah, I'm excited for it. Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much.
Are you buying?
I am buying, yeah.
Congratulations.
There we go. Let's see it.
And then our last discussion topic was the Adulting 101 seminar planning. But the folks that were supposed to be helping run the first seminar are not here, so we will forego that topic and just continue on with the meeting, or continue on to our next topic. Are there any comments or reports from city staff?
Tonight.
Okay, from our council liaisons?
Yeah, I guess there's 2 things going on, and I think both of them you're aware of. One is we're doing a lot of work around housing. We had a long meeting this week where we essentially approved an apartment building or rezoning that will allow an apartment building to be built if that works over at 17 Dry Creek. And that was a little bit contentious. And ironically, I was probably the most contentious part of that because I got annoyed. And then the other, but we're also, we're continuing to work on zoning and missing middle. And that's the conversation around whether we should allow people to build duplexes, triplexes, and quads kind of by right on their lots in an effort to improve access to kind of that missing middle in terms of housing. There's going to be a public, 3 council members are having a meeting on Monday at Littleton United Methodist Church. I think it's 6:30 because Bemis was full. Church. No, that's fine. That's lovely. That's good news. And the church is a lovely place to go to. So there's no complaints about that. But that if you want to come to that, Andrew, it's going to be open to the public. It'll be me and Pam and Andrea talking about it. And that's pretty much the span of kind of perspectives within the council on the missing middle conversation. And then you can apply to replace Gretchen until tomorrow.
Yes, 5 p.m. It's cut off.
Yeah. And I'm hoping we get lots of good applicants. So I've had, I think 4 people reach out to me that I know of. One actually I know is not going to do it. Not after talking to me, but
Scare people.
But I'm excited. When I was on the school board, we replaced Carrie Warren Gully when she got moved on to the county commissioners, and we had, I think we had like 20 people apply, and we interviewed a dozen people, and I feel like it was a great experience, and you have nothing to lose by applying. So.
I do not have any comments or reports as the chair. I just want to thank everyone for coming, and spending your evening here. And I'll make sure all the other folks on the NGAB get access to this video. And I will reach out to each of them individually to see what is happening with our attendance. It is a bit concerning when no one else is here and only 2 people reached out to me. But that is all I have, so I will adjourn our meeting for this evening. Thank you all.
Thank you.